Hey everyone, today we are reviewing Hazelthorn by C.G. Drews. Hazelthorn comes out on October 28th and is a standalone novel. C.G. Drews also wrote the book Don't Let the Forest In, which I haven't read yet, but everyone told me before I read this was absolutely fantastic. So I was really excited to read this book. As you may be able to tell from the cover, this is part fantasy, but mostly is more in like a horror type genre, a little bit of a murder mystery aspect going on. So the fantasy element is not massive part of it. Basic plot. This story follows our main character whose name is Evander. Evander is 17 years old. He's living in this very insane, massive mansion, kind of gothic-y vibe to it. And he's basically been raised by the person who owns this mansion, which the mansion is called Hazelthorn. When Evander was much younger, the owner of Hazelthorn's grandson tried to kill him in the gardens, and that's the only memories Evander has, and he didn't have any memories before that time. And because he was greatly injured in that attack as a child, he sort of has to be confined to his room. He's really sickly. He doesn't go out in society. He doesn't talk to people or anything like that. He doesn't even talk to Laurie, who was the boy who tried to kill him, even though Laurie visits the mansion every summer. One day, Laurie comes back for the summer to visit, and his grandfather passes away while it's just the two of them in the mansion. When they come to read the will, Evander inherits Hazelthorn, and none of his family does. So what this causes is a bunch of this grandfather's family to show up and try to sort of steal this mansion away from Evander. There's a little bit of a magic aspect to the book itself, and so I think you kind of should go into this book pretty blind besides that plot point. It's definitely a great book for spooky season. I don't know why they're releasing it just 3 days before Halloween, though. I think this probably should have come out a little bit earlier so that you could have read it in October, because it has this very gothic-y, dark vibes to it that kind of fits in perfect right now. Overall, this is not my normal genre that I read. I do read the occasional horror book, but it's not something that I'm super interested in. Now, the book itself is pretty short, and I read it really quickly, and I was entertained while I was reading the book. My biggest problem with the book is that it sort of relies a lot on vibes and not a lot of the actual plot itself. The plot is fairly small. It's not a huge aspect of it. It's just a lot of very descriptive, flowery language to make you feel these sort of unease within this mansion. And I think the author's effective at doing that, but I just needed a little bit more from it. Especially because the small bit of magic that's in this book I found really interesting, and I just wanted things expanded just a little bit more. And when the grandfather's family starts to show up, so his other children and all this, you get sort of these very broad caricatures of these people, but you're not really sort of deep diving into a character study on anything, including Evander, the main character at times. But I do think if you want something that is just more vibes based, then you probably will love this book. Now, technically, it is a young adult book, and I'm not necessarily the right age range for it. As far as these sort of reveals and secrets coming out within the book, I didn't find any of them surprising. I kind of guessed them early on. There were also times in this book where I wasn't quite sure which genre it was trying to be. It sort of fit a little bit into so many. It's part mystery, it's part horror, it's part fantasy. And I think there's a way to have done it super effectively where they knocked it out of the park on all three of the genres. But because the book's so short and we don't really deep dive into any of those things, it just felt very surface level for me. I think the imagery is beautiful. I think if you liked belladonna and you're really into sort of how like the plants and the poisons and all that were described within that book, but you wanted a little bit more darker and horror based, then that's kind of what this is giving you. For me, I'm not someone who's super interested in plants and poisons and things like that. Overall, I gave Hazelthorn 3.5 stars. I did not hate it at all while I was reading it. I'm glad I read it. It was totally fine. It's not something I would buy a copy of or special editions of, or would maybe necessarily recommend to people I know. I would still like to try this author's other book. The only few people I know who have read both of their books says the first book, the Don't Let the Forest In, is much better than this one. So again, Hazelthorn comes out on October 28th. If you've read it already, I would love to hear your thoughts, or if you've read Don't Let the Forest In. Thank you.